The Caldecott tunnels, located in the Oakland Hills, have a rich history dating back to their construction in the mid-20th century. The first tunnels, Bore 1 and Bore 2, opened in 1937, providing a vital transportation link between Oakland and communities to the east. Over the years, increased traffic necessitated expansion, leading to the addition of a third tunnel, completed in 1964, and a fourth tunnel, completed in 2013. They remain crucial to the Bay Area's transportation infrastructure, serving thousands of vehicles daily. But with more cars and trucks making the journey daily, it's clear the time has come for an upgrade. The Caldecott Tunnel Rehabilitation Project will repair Bores 1, 2, and 3 to address structural deficiencies and fire and life safety issues, ensuring that the tunnels remain safe in the event of an emergency. Bore 4, the northernmost tunnel, will not be affected. The project will remove and repair unsound concrete, rust, and efflorescence along the tunnel liner, replace the existing roadway slab along the entire length of the tunnels, install fixed firefighting systems, and upgrade electrical power and tunnel ventilation systems. The new systems will introduce visible features within the three bores. In Bores 1 and 2, two options for the ventilation system have been studied. Option 1 proposes installing a Ciccardo nozzle ventilation system using supply fans to improve smoke management for egress and firefighting. The system would require cutting an opening in the tunnel ceiling and fresh air space, known as the plenum. Visible from the roadway, the openings would be 22 feet long and 7.5 feet wide. The Ciccardo nozzle would require using an existing fan or constructing new fans within the west portal fan room. The second option for the tunnel ventilation would be to install a jet fan system, like the fans in Bore 4. 4 rows of fans are proposed throughout the tunnel to improve smoke management for egress and firefighting. 1 to 2 fans are proposed for each row. Openings will be required in the tunnel ceiling, and niches will be constructed in the plenum to house the jet fans. All the ventilation improvements will close the supply and exhaust air openings in the tunnel ceiling and walls, installing motorized dampers to ventilate the fresh air and exhaust with the plenum spaces. Jet fans will also be installed in Bore 3, requiring 8 rows of fans with 2 fans per row for a total of 16 fans in the tunnel. Like Bores 1 and 2, niches will be constructed in the ceiling to house the jet fans. The project also has a no-build alternative. If the project is not constructed, continued and accelerated deterioration of Bores 1, 2, and 3 will occur. If not addressed, the deficiencies of these aging tunnels would trigger more frequent maintenance and lead to more extensive repairs in the future. But with these ventilation system improvements and other safety upgrades, the Caldecott tunnels will continue to serve as a critical transportation route, efficient, safe, and sustainable. For more information on the Caldecott Tunnels Rehabilitation Project, visit Caltrans' website.
Okay. Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Kenneth Puth. I am a project manager for California Department of Transportation, also known as Caltrans, in District 4, covering our beautiful Bay Area. I'm honored to serve the department to deliver its strategic action plans, that is, our vision, mission, and values for our projects. It is Caltrans' vision to deliver a thriving, connected California. It is our mission to improve lives and community through transportation. And we value collaboration, equity, innovation, integrity, people first, pride, and stewardship during the entire project development process. To realize our vision, we strive to achieve safety, equity, climate action, prosperity, and employee excellence as part of Caltrans goals. I would like to welcome all of you for joining us in person and virtually on Zoom. This is a public meeting of the Caldecott Tunnel Rehabilitation and Ventilation Upgrade projects to present to you the draft environmental document. The purpose of the public meeting process is to obtain your comments as a public member and to ensure that transportation decisions are consistent with the goals and objectives of federal, state, and local entities. The meeting agenda for today, as you see there on the screen, includes informational video of the projects as shown earlier. If you just joined us and missed it, no worry, please visit the project website to access the YouTube link as well as pertinent project information and updates at your own convenience. Joining me today at the table in front row seat on the podium here are my dedicated project team members who have made a collaborative effort to deliver this project. Wahida Rashid is our Caltrans branch chief of environmental analysis. She will present environmental process and a draft environmental document. I have Jay Fong next to her, is our Caltrans branch chief of design. He will present the project scope, build alternatives, and potential traffic impacts. Also, I have panelists of subject matter experts from different offices in Caltrans, as you can see sitting next to Jay, and also sitting down here at another table. We have from consultant team that will be available to answer any question during the Q&A session after the presentation. And of course, Wahida and Jay and I will also be available to answer Q&A as well. Any questions that the team here don't have an answer for you, we will provide written response later. Our public information officer, Hector Chinchilla, who you met if you're attending here in person at the entrance, will be happy to address your comment as well. He will be happy to talk to you during this presentation or afterward. Before I proceed, allow me to explain some ground rules for this hybrid meeting. Please note this meeting is being recorded. For those of you attending virtually on Zoom, everyone will be on mute except our panelists as a presenter. Please post your question on Zoom chat box. Our designated representative will read them out during the Q&A session. And for those of you attending in person, please complete the comment cards and our representative will collect the comment. We'll collect them during the Q&A session and we'll prioritize the question for our panelists to answer and address as many of them as we can. If time permits, until 7:30. There is a QR code to the project website. You're welcome to provide comments and questions electronically there. The 30 days comments period has started on January 6th and runs until February 6th. Now it is my pleasure to introduce Wahida Rashid to start the presentation slide on environmental. Wahida, the microphone is yours.
Thank you, Kenneth Puth, as the project manager on this project. That was a lovely introduction. As you know, we're here to introduce the draft environmental document that has been prepared for Caldecott Tunnel Rehabilitation and Ventilation Upgrade project. This document has been circulating since January 6th, as Ken mentioned, and comments are going to be collected today until February 6th. So those of you who has already provided comments online, thank you for those comments. Your comments are extremely valuable for us. Your comments actually help us shape this public project and see it to fruition. So this draft environmental document has been prepared in compliance with state and federal environmental laws, California Environmental Quality Act, known as CEQA, and National Environmental Policy Act, known as NEPA. So these two, CEQA and NEPA, this is a joint document, and we have been circulating the draft environmental document and collecting comments. Now, let's quickly go over the Title VI discrimination policy, non-discrimination policy statement. Caltrans takes this Title VI very seriously for everything that we do, including the preparation and public outreach for a draft environmental document. The California Department of Transportation, under Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, ensures no person in the United States shall, on the ground of race, color, or national origin, be excluded from participation in be denied the benefit of, or be subjected to discrimination under any program or activity receiving federal financial assistance. Caltrans will make every effort to ensure non-discrimination in all of its services, programs, and activities, whether they are federally funded or not, and that services and benefits are fairly distributed to all people, regardless of race, color, or national origin. In addition, Caltrans will facilitate meaningful participation in the transportation planning process in a non-discriminatory manner. Related federal statutes, remedies, and state law further those protections to include sex, disability, religion, sexual orientation, and age. For information or guidance on how to file a complaint, on obtain more information regarding Title VI, please contact the Title VI branch manager at 916-324-8379 or visit the following webpage that you can see on the screen. Now let's go over quickly how can you submit the comments. So those of you who are here probably have already collected comment cards from the reception desk, and please write down your comments on the comment card, and we have team members on the floor. They can collect your comments when you're ready. You can also submit your comments by virtually through comment cards that you can access through the project website. You can also email your comments to Brycelyn Hendrix. She's the assigned project planner or scientist at dot.ca.gov, as you can see on the screen. Also, you can call a landline designated to collect your comments at 855-367-3269. You can also, the fifth option is to actually use the USPS, and you can mail your comments to Brycelyn Hendrix, Caltrans District 4, PO Box 23660, Mail Station 85 in the Oakland office, to the Oakland office. Now, the draft environmental document, that's why we're here, has been circulating, as I mentioned, from January 6th, and it has been prepared in compliance with the state and federal law, CEQA and NEPA. This draft environmental document also accompanies an individual Section 4F for review and comments. Let me go over quickly the process of environmental, how do we prepare an environmental document and what exactly is an environmental document. So for this particular project, we have prepared an initial study, proposed mitigated negative declaration for CEQA, and an environmental assessment for NEPA. So the actual environmental process, what we do is we look at the scope of a project. What is the project proposing to do? In this case, we are rehabilitating the 3 bores of Caldecott Tunnel 1, 2, and 3. So that scope, and we look at a project footprint that we study, and we prepare technical studies for each environmental resources. We also look at the project alternatives, and we look at project options and what are the best ways we can build a project with the least environmental impact. When we have an impact, potential impact to an environmental resource, first we try to avoid the impact. If we cannot avoid, we try to minimize the impact. And then if that fails, we go into strategizing mitigation. This particular project do have a Section 4F impact due to Caldecott Tunnel Bore 1 and 2. These 2 bores are eligible for the National Registry of Historic Places, and due to the rehabilitation scope of work, the project that we're proposing is going to have adverse impact to those 2 tunnels. And that's why we have prepared an individual Section 4F or draft individual Section 4F. And we are coordinating with National Historic Preservation Officer, SHPO, and also with Department of Interiors. Let's quickly look at the potential environmental impacts. I am not going to read through all the impacts that are, there is no impact, so which is, sorry. Oh, okay. Okay. Actually, we're gonna go visit the potential environmental impacts after we understand the project scope a little bit better. And for that, I'm gonna need help from Kenneth and Jay Fong to go over the project alternatives and options. And then I'll come back again and talk about the potential environmental impact due to the proposed project. Right?
Okay, thank you, Wahida. So next, as stated in my opening remark, it is Caltrans' vision to deliver a thriving and connected California. It is our mission to improve lives and community through transportation. This slide just shows you the regional vicinity of the project. As you can see there, Caldecott Tunnel runs east and west through Berkeley Hills, connecting Contra Costa and Alameda counties. The tunnel serves as an important link between the Bay Area, in the East Bay and Metro Bay Area, carrying over 160,000 commuters daily. So why are we doing the projects? So I want to share with you the purpose and need. Caltrans' number 1 goal is safety, and we value stewardship. So in this project, we value stewardship of environmental resource and our transportation asset, which is our tunnels infrastructure. Therefore, the purpose need as shown is the purpose of project is to preserve the structural integrity, improve the performance of the tunnel, and extend its service life. The project is needed because Caltrans Division of Structural Maintenance and Investigation and District 4 identified deficiencies during the inspection and conclude that the 3 bores require upgrades. If not addressed, the deficiency would trigger more frequent maintenance and lead to more extensive repair in the future. In addition, an independent consultant was tasked by engineering service and the district to perform a risk analysis, exploring the ventilation capacity of the complex tunnel and tubes within the state of California to address smoke from a potential vehicle fires. The risk analysis conclude that Caldecott Tunnel Bores 1, 2, and 3 were at the top risk priority in the state and recommend ventilation upgrades. So what are we going to do about it? So as part of our project development process, this is just kind of a brief overview. The project team has prepared and delivered draft project report and draft environmental document as part of our, as part of what we call the PA&D phase in Caltrans project development. We hold the public meeting today to engage and hear from people first. That was our value, which is to hear from you and hear your comments and concern so we can address them and minimize impact to the environment, to traffic, and to your everything else that you need in life. Next slide, I want to bring Jay Fong, our branch chief for design, to present the project scope in more details and the design options and traffic impact. Okay.
Thank you, Kenneth. My name is Jay Fong. I'm a design branch chief over this project. So let's go over, we were tasked with the project purpose and need, which Kenneth shared. And in order to do that, there's 3 main components. The first one is the tunnel structural and pavement rehab for bores 1, 2, and 3. The second part of the project is the ventilation system upgrades for improved fire safety, which is the moving the smoke in the case of vehicular fire for safe egress. And also the third component is a fixed firefighting protection system for fire suppression, which is essentially sprinklers. So as you can see in this slide here, currently right now, bores 1, 2, and 3, there is, well, let's quickly go over the tunnel liner is we're going to repair, clean, and both the liner walls as well as the ceiling. And we are also going to upgrade lighting, the call boxes and the communication systems within the tunnel for safe operation. In addition to that, we are also going to be repaving or replacing the concrete slabs in all 3 tunnels, and also upgrading the drainage systems. So the second component is the ventilation system. As you can see here for bores 1, 2, and 3, currently the system, there's really 2 essential ways of ventilating the tunnel. One's natural, those only works for short tunnels. But for longer tunnels, you need mechanical assistance. So currently in bores 1, 2, and 3, it uses a system where there's a fresh air plenum, which is basically a duct above those 2 ducts. So there's a, for bore 4, it's all open. But for this technology here, fresh air is blown from out the tunnel walls. As you see here, the fresh air is blown out, and there is open slots in the ceiling where when the fans are turned on, the smoke will be evacuated and pushed out to safely address the smoke in the tunnel. These tunnels were designed for smaller cars. As you know, our cars are much bigger, and trucks and even electric vehicles. And this current system does not meet, if in case there's a larger fire than just a car, we're gonna need to upgrade. So this is why this project is proposing using jet fans or using essentially fans for similar to bore 4. There's 2 options for bores 1 and 2. There's a Cercato nozzle, which is essentially introduce an air jet that shoots along the tunnel to evacuate the smoke in case of a fire. And for bore 3, there is insufficient space to put a Sacardo nozzle. So the other option for bore 3, the other option, which is also for bores 1 and 2, is a jet fan, which is very similar to if you've driven through bore 4. That's essentially what we're going to be doing. So that's the other option for bores 1 and 2, and it's the only option for bore number 3. Okay, and the next third component is a deluge fire sprinkler system. Right now, there is no sprinkler systems in bore 1, 2, and 3. So in case the fire, the sprinkler system will turn on and it will suppress the fire to an extent that allow firefighters to come in, and then there's hookups for fire hoses, and then they can continue to fire. But this initial suppression system, fire suppression system, sprinkler system, is what will be installed in all 3 bores as well. Okay, so all closures, plans will be notified to the public prior to construction via press releases, media alerts, and the project website. And we'll also have signs in advance posted 72 hours in advance. And we realize that it's never a good time to close a freeway or disrupt your commute, but closures are necessary to closures and detours are necessary to facilitate the safe and efficient construction work and ensure safety of the workers as well as motorists. So for during the main line, so the closures, you require closures of bore 1, 2, and 3 at different times, but at all times, 1 bore of 2 lanes of traffic will be open in each direction. So there will always be at least 2 lanes open. When bore 1 is closed, the eastbound ramp to will have to be on-ramp will have to be closed. So there's a 1/2 mile detour. Same on the exit side in Orinda, that first eastbound ramp will have to be closed as well. So you'll have to the detour will go to the next exit and then come back around. So that is the only ramp detours. There will be no ramp detours when work is being done on bores 2 and 3. And so that's what I have for now. And for the potential environmental impacts, I'll hand it back to Wahida.
Thank you, Jay. And hopefully that gives you clear idea of what the project scope is. And now let's look at what the project scope and how it's affecting the environment around the tunnels. So we have potential environmental impacts. I will not read all of those that's on the screen that have no impacts. So as you can see, there's a lot of resources, including air quality, biological resources, and many others that the project will have no impact to those resources. Now, a little bit less than a significant impact will be to aesthetics, greenhouse gas due to basically using the equipments that we use during construction. That's also temporary impact. Noise impact, that's also temporary impact during construction. Public services, that's also during construction due to some traffic delays. Tribal cultural resource, there's also minimal impact to that. And now we actually have a greater impact, adverse impact to the Section 4F resource, which are the 2 tunnels that I had mentioned prior. Since we're talking about Section 4F, what exactly is Section 4F? Section 4F only applies to transportation projects. This is actually a very beautiful law. Section 4F is from the U.S. Department of Transportation Act of 1966, which protects publicly owned parks, recreation areas, wildlife refuges, and historic sites. So in this case, as you can see, we have talked about it multiple times that the bore 1 and 2 are historic resources. And due to the installation of the ventilation system, there is potential adverse impact to these 2 tunnels. And therefore, we have prepared the draft section 4F. And this potential impact, we are also proposing mitigation, and the strategy for that is developing a memorandum of agreement in coordination with the stakeholders, mostly the historic societies, local historic societies. Caltrans is already in conversation with them to develop this MOA and with some mitigation strategies. And this whole process is in compliance with Section 106 of the federal law that is also helps us protect historic properties. So that's pretty much it. If we have more questions about environmental impact, we will be going on to the Q&A session. And hopefully many of you are submitting comments. This is personally the most exciting part of the public meeting, where we get to actually answer your questions. So I will take my seat, and as you can see, the panelists are sitting there, and we will be answering your questions now. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Wahida, Kenneth, and Jay, for your presentation. We really appreciate it. So we're going to start with the public comment we've received in person. We also have some comments that were submitted on Zoom. So if folks are on the Zoom, you can still put in your comments. Our question from the audience here is, it's a two-part question. I believe the first part will probably be something that Kenneth and Jay will answer, and the second part is regarding noise. So I believe that may go to Kevin, but Kenneth, I'm sure you will direct the questions as appropriate. The first part of this question, so this question comes from someone in the audience that's associated with the Fourth Bore Coalition. The Fourth Bore, I'm reading this verbatim. The Fourth Bore Coalition agreed with Caltrans to build pedestrian and bike facilities. A sidewalk was designed and not built because of money. Can you include money so that sidewalks can be built? So that's the first part, and I'm going to read the second part. I can repeat it later if necessary. The second part is, what noise from traffic will Oakland community hear during construction? Will there be backup beepers? If so, will they be prohibited so not to wake up residents? So Kenneth, if you can start with the first part, please.
Thank you for the question. Can you hear me? Okay. So regarding the question on the Fourth Bore Coalition, I will have to postpone the answering the question at a later date. From my understanding, I know I have been working in the Fourth Bore construction for a good 5 years. This project purpose and need, as I mentioned from the beginning, is to focus on the rehabilitations of the tunnel to protect the structural integrity. And number 2 is to focus on fire life safety. We do have a limited funding where our goal is also protect stewardship in terms of funding, wisely use them for the purpose of what ahead of us for this project. Definitely, I would consider and take that question to our team to address any future additional scope for pedestrian access. In addition to what I just said, please be mindful that the bore 1, 2, and 3 are very narrow. Bore 1 and 2 are very tight. There's no space necessarily, so it's something that we want. So I'll relate this to Jay, if you have anything to add. as far as what you know in terms of the geometry for bore 1 and 2 and 3.
Well, I think, like Kenneth said, bores 1 and 2 definitely are too narrow. Pedestrian access is something that we're concerned about. But like Kenneth said, it is beyond the project scope and need. But if it's feasible and if it's something that is presented to, if you submit, anyone can submit a suggestion to comment box, and we'd be happy to respond appropriately to see if it is appropriate to add pedestrian access. I'm assuming through the Caldecott Tunnel. So
this is for people who park at the tunnel. They have no pedestrian access. Caltrans surrounded. Just wait for the microphone.
People online can't hear you if you're not talking. Let's make sure it's live.
Excuse me, let me repeat it. The Fourth Bore Coalition, when you built the fourth bore, had an agreement with Caltrans to put aside some money. And the second highest priority was for people from the Parkwoods to be able to walk to the community of Berkeley. And a sidewalk was built, and it was made expensive because Caltrans had requirements, and it was designed, but the money was allocated to lower priority projects. So people who were affected by the fourth bore and will be affected by construction, the sidewalk was not built. It's all designed. It goes from Parkwoods to Hill Light. And the question is, can you find some money to build that missing sidewalk? They must walk on the road and walk in a busy highway, which is very dangerous. So can you do one and do this too? That's my question.
Yeah, thank you for the clarification there. So we'll look into your question and we'll investigate the agreement. And if you could also, y'all, if you could provide that comment card to our public information officer, Hector Chinchillo. He'll make sure that he relay that question to the project team and have them address for you within the next couple of weeks. Hector, would you like to say something?
Email and phone number, right? Checking list. So I'll send you an email on that. I can provide my information after we're done.
Thank you, Kenneth. Yeah, I believe Hector will be speaking to the audience member and provide them with contact information and to answer their question, to provide more information. So that was the first part of the question we received. As I noted, the second part of the question is about noise, and it says, what noise from traffic will Oakland community hear during construction? Will there be backup beepers? If so, will they be prohibited to not wake up residents? After we answer this question, we're going to go to a couple questions we received via Zoom.
Absolutely. So this question, I want to invite Kevin. He's in charge of air, noise, and hazardous waste. Please go ahead and introduce yourself. And
yeah, sure. I'm Kevin Brycelyn. I'm the Chief Environmental Engineering at Caltrans District 4. And so as far as the traffic noise goes, I don't expect there to be any change in the level of traffic noise. For the second part of the question is, will there be backup beepers? I don't know if we have planned to prohibit that on this project. I don't know if that's something we normally do, but we can possibly put specs that would minimize the amount of noise that's in the morning. We also will have a spec that's a part of every contract that limits the amount of noise the contractor can produce between 9 p.m. and 6 a.m. So I can't say if they'll be prohibited at this time.
Thank you. Thank you, Kevin. So we've received about 6 questions from Zoom, and I know we have a limited time that we're here at this meeting. So if we can try to answer these questions as concisely as possible, One of the first questions we received is, why is FM radio reception disabled in bore 4? I'm not sure if Kenneth or Jay, you're able to comment on that.
I don't really have maybe prepared. We will get a response from our maintenance crew to see why AM or FM is not available in the bores.
Thank you. One of the other questions we received is, how long is the project scheduled for? How do you plan to manage already congested traffic?
I guess I can answer that. So there is several options that we are exploring. Of course, the ideally, we would do just overnight closures, lane closures to do the work. However, due to the complexity of the tunnel ventilation installation and all the work that's being done, it's envisioned that bores will have to be closed at certain times. So depending on the different strategies, we are still in the process of developing a detailed transportation management plan, which is circulated through all of our function units and management to assess traffic volumes, when traffic occurs, and things like that. So the other option we're exploring potentially is using multiple weekend closures of a bore at a time in order to complete the work. If that's the case, we're thinking about potentially about 3 years to do all the tunnels, all 3 tunnels. And the other option would be potentially restoring the AM/PM switch that was along Highway 24 prior to the bore 4 opening. In that case, it would reduce the time down to about a year. So that's sort of the time frame and different strategies that we are implementing. But once again, it's when we reiterate, it's never a good time to close traffic or inconvenience commuters, and we understand that. But we do care also about people's safety of the traveling public in case there's a fire or emergency in the tunnel. And it's vital that we do these upgrades now instead of later, because it only costs more if we wait.
Thank you, Jay. We have some other questions about traffic and detours, but I'm going to try to go in the order that these questions were received. We have another comment, which is, it starts with, thank you for hosting this talk. If not already discussed, can you provide an overview of the impact to cultural resources and the proposed mitigations in the, they say DEIR here, but it's not an EIR, it's a mitigated neg deck. For the recessed fans, is there any language in the draft environmental document, not DER, that discusses artistic treatments that could reduce the impact of the fans? So Kenneth, I believe perhaps Charles, I'm not sure who else will be able to answer this question.
Yeah, I think Charles will be the right person.
Okay. Start off with the actual end of the question. I don't recall seeing any artistic treatments regarding the fans. I don't know if that would be possible considering reducing the efficiency of the fan. So that's the visual impact is the one of the main points why there is the adverse effect to bores 1 and 2. So it's both the visual impact and the large volume of material being removed from the tunnel ceilings. There are 4 niches in each bore. Each niche is about 150 feet long. I don't remember the exact width, but just the large and kind of permanent change to the tunnel is what really constitutes the adverse effect. And so under our memorandum of agreement that we are still in development right now, we are looking at just a number of different mitigation possibilities. We don't have, we are still developing them. We still need some negotiation with our partners. The one that we'll definitely have is what's called the Built Environment Treatment Plan. It's a plan that essentially spells out the review project or plan reviews and monitoring to ensure that the work that we will be carrying out will be will conform to what are called the Secretary of the Interior standards for the treatment of historic properties. So that we have a a detailed plan that will spells out how we review the plans, all the work before construction, during construction, after construction, just to ensure that this all, does not produce any additional impacts and keeps the work within standards. And we're also looking at the possibilities, including prior to construction, documenting the condition of the tunnel with photographs, historic narratives, drawings for the historic American engineering record. After construction, we're looking at reevaluating the tunnels for historic integrity and make sure that they are still historically significant. And assuming that is the case, we will formally nominate the tunnels to the National Register of Historic Places. And we're also looking at potentially interpretive panels at both ends of the tunnel. We would develop with both stakeholders and tribal partners for historic context. This tunnel history in larger context, we are looking at possibilities of online webinar, virtual tour, possibility of actual in-person tours, which we would a limited number, basically, of these, the plenum buildings. We are also, what else? Those are the main ones, I think.
Yeah.
Great.
Thank you, John.
Thank you so much. I believe in the beginning, your microphone wasn't picking up your answer, but I'd like to remind the panel, the audience here and the audience on Zoom that all of the questions received during this meeting and through the other ways of submitting questions will be answered in the final environmental document. So our next question that we received via Zoom is about the options in the build alternative. And the question says, can you discuss the pros and cons of each ventilation option in bores 1 and 2, the nozzle, the fans, or the sprinkler system? Thanks.
Okay, thank you for the question. So I would like to direct this question to Nadar from our consultant team, Attn.
Yes, thank you for the question. The differences are that the Staccato nozzle option would have the potential of using the existing ventilation system and possibly either use the existing fans or just upgrade the existing fans. So it's less intrusive in that aspect. Compared to jet fans, where we have to bring in complete new fan system and build more niches in the tunnel in order to place these new fans in there. So it would be more structural work involved in that. And so we are doing the analysis to try to minimize the structural changes to the tunnel, and if possible, try and use the Staccato nozzle. In terms of the bore 3, it requires so much capacity because it's downhill, and a fire would require a lot more capacity to handle. Similar to bore 4, where we have a lot of jet fans. Therefore, that Staccato nozzle option is not available for bore 3. Regarding the sprinkler system, it's just an addition to the standpipe system that we already have in the tunnels. And it's intended to limit the size of the fire for a better protection of the egress route, as well as a better protection for the structure.
Thank you. Our next question, Kenneth, you'll have to direct this question. I'm not sure who would be the person to answer this, but the question is, will the project address the cross-tunnel passages between bore 1 and 2?
So currently, based on the original scope of the projects, the improvement that is within the cross passage, or they call for wall 1 and 2, it's a very narrow cross passage compared to what we did during the fourth wall construction, where we have several cross passage and exits there. In terms of wall 1 and 2 cross passage, there's limited improvement we could do. However, there's some electrical upgrade and lighting upgrade to make sure that in the event of a fire emergency or fire incident, the vehicle occupant or the public be able to open the door, access it, have enough visibility, enough light, and to make sure that the ventilation that's currently there is available. So during this project, we definitely will examine all those different options to make sure that it is accessible. Okay.
Thank you. So this next question is about detours. So the question begins with, how can you close a freeway access to and from Fish Ranch Road? What about all the residents that live off of Grizzly Peak that use these on-ramps daily?
Okay, I'll have Jay answer this question. Jay, go ahead.
Grizzly Peak, we're talking, I'm just kind of worrying myself because there is no safe way when bore 1 is being closed to do the work in order to safely traverse traffic across to bore 2. It's too sharp of an angle. So there will be an inconvenience. We understand that, but there's no physical way for traffic to, this only affects eastbound Route 24. So it would be the entrance. So you just have to go back one exit in order to get back on the freeway. And the same thing for the Fish Ranch Road off-ramp on the Orinda side, eastbound, you would have to go one exit further down and then come back.
Yeah, so pretty much, if I may add, so if Fish Ranch eastbound off-ramp is closed, what we direct traffic to do is to exit at Wilder, which is the next exit, make a turn, come back on westbound 24 to come back at Fish Ranch on off-ramp. That's all it is. So it doesn't impact, it shouldn't impact anybody at the Crispy Peak, because there will be, just like any closure that we have, if we close one off-ramp, we would make sure that the intermediate off-ramp is open to traffic for the detour.
Thank
Okay?
you so
Thank
much.
you.
Just a reminder to the person asking this question and everyone else that these questions will also be responded to in the final environmental document. The document that went out on January 6th is the draft environmental document. Once the comment period closes, Caltrans will begin working on responding to all the comments received. The next question is a general question about impacts to the area. So there's a couple different points. So perhaps, Kenneth, you can help direct this as well. The question says, how will construction and operation affect the quality of life for nearby residents, particularly in terms of noise, pollution, and traffic?
Yeah, in terms of noise, I would direct this question to Kevin, if you could help me address the noise. And then what's the second part? I'm sorry. Pollution. Yeah, that too.
Pollution and traffic.
Yep. You're it.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for the question.
Thank you.
So I know I talked a little bit about noise before. We don't expect there to be major noise impacts with this project because most of the work will be inside the tunnel. But there will be some barrier demolition at both the east and west sides. We did a noise study and the impact was really minimal for the residents that are close to the west side. And on the east side, there's really not too many residents that are very close. So there's not expected to be a noise impact or noise impact there. Now, for air quality impacts, we don't expect there to really be too many air quality impacts because of the nature of construction. The construction vehicles and equipment will be required to abide by Bay Area Air Quality Management District regulations for all construction projects.
And if I may add also, typically during construction, we have sweeping measure like dust control that will be implementing in the contract specs. So a lot of these in terms of like air pollution and things like that, like when we have a demolition inside the tunnel, typically on most projects, we host, sprinkle some water, keep the dust down so that it doesn't, spread or become airborne to live traffic. Okay, so thank you.
Also, if I may add, this project is not, we're not adding capacity to the projects. In other words, if we were to widen the tunnels and add more cars, that would actually add pollution, permanent pollutant in the air. So this is not one of those projects. So not to worry about air pollution or any kind of pollution. What was the third item?
The three items that were asked about were noise, pollution, and traffic.
I'll address the traffic question some more. We recognize the inconvenience that projects like this will cause in your daily lives. We're committed to minimizing the impact, and we will work with local partner agencies. And the key really for this project is short-term inconvenience and long-term gain, because we are trying to provide safe transportation. And in case of emergency or fire, as we've seen down in LA and different things, if things happen, we need to be prepared for a response. And this is one of the ways we would be able to respond in case of emergency by upgrading the bores 1, 2, and 3. And we need to be cognizant that the work needs to be done, because if it doesn't get done, then in case of emergency, we don't want to be answering questions when that happens.
Thank you. Our next question goes back to noise. So this may be repetitive, but feel free to answer as concisely as you feel appropriate. What is the anticipated noise level of the jet fans during operation? So actually a slightly different, as well as the construction noise level, and how will noise impacts be mitigated to nearby communities? I think Kevin will be answering this, correct?
Yeah, thanks for that question. I actually can't answer the question about the jet fans, but I will answer for the rest of the question. We expect the noise levels in the closest community to the tunnel entrance to be about 76 decibels with the loudest construction activity, which will be demolition of the barrier that is between bores 1 and 2 at the west end of the tunnel. 76 decibels is about the same as the level of traffic noise. So that would be the worst case scenario. And as far as mitigation, there will be specifications concerning or limiting the amount of noise that the contractor can make during the nighttime. There'll also be recommendations to combine noisy activities during the same time frame to minimize the disruption, prevent idling of equipment, and perform public outreach before noisy activities.
Thank you. Before we direct the first part of that question, Kenneth, regarding the jet fan noise, I'd like to remind folks that the environmental document in Appendix B and C discusses project features as well as avoidance, minimization, and mitigation measures. So they are all listed there in Appendix B and C. So Kenneth, that first part of the question regarding jet fan noise, do you know who would answer that?
Yeah, so regarding jet fan noise, if you could address
Sure,
What is
yes.
the-
Jet fans have silencers on them in order to quiet their operation, and they're typically not used, routinely. They're used mainly during fire emergencies, so it's not a regular occurrence, and maybe during accidents or congested conditions in the tunnel. And the National Fire Protection Association has placed certain limits on the amount of noise that can be heard during a fire emergency. And these jet fans will conform to those requirements.
Thank you so much. Okay, so we're close to the end of our Q&A. We have less than 5 minutes, and I have one more question and another one that's a bit of a question and a bit of a comment. So the first question is, if you're worried about fire around the tunnel, why isn't Caltrans taking care of the overgrowth around and above the tunnel? Kenneth, would you like to direct this question to anyone in particular?
Yeah,
Or you can answer it for us.
well, yeah, generally, so as I mentioned at the beginning, the purpose and need for the project, right? So it's really to rehabilitate inside the tunnel, tunnel wall, tunnel ceiling, as Jay described, and also the fire life safety due to vehicular fires. I understand, and we all hear about the fire in Southern California due to trees and such. As far as any, trees and shrub within our Caltrans right away, I'm assuming, our Caltrans maintenance typically handle those. But definitely I would want to take this question and do additional investigation and have appropriate functional unit to respond to it. Okay, thank you. Oh, actually, I have Lydia here, and maybe she could also chime in to help out with this question. Lydia, please go ahead.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Lydia Mack again with Office of Landscape Architecture. Regarding vegetation that's above the tunnel, Office of Maintenance, they do regular vegetation management. And like Kenneth said, we will bring this question back to our peers and share this with them and provide the response to your comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Lydia. So I believe this last comment/question that I'll be asking, this is the last one. There's a bit of a commentary in here, so I'm going to read the question in the middle of it and then read the whole submission. So the question that's included in here is any seismic reinforcing of the cement also included around any of the bores? So before we direct that answer, I'd like to read the whole comment, which the author says as a comment. They say, glad to see the intent to increase lighting of bore 1 and 2 and improve drainage to stop leaks on the road surface that are hazardous in the historic tunnels. Looking forward to safer, better fire and life safety measures. And then they ask their question, but there's still more. Is there any seismic reinforcing of the cement also included around any of the bores? P.S. I echo request for Caltrans to look for supplemental funding to complete sidewalks already designed on Caldecott Lane. This is in parentheses, that were a high priority mitigation measure of the fourth bore construction that were not adequately funded. This is not a request for pedestrian path inside of any of the 3 tunnel bores. So I believe that last part of that comment was clarified by our audience member. And so once again, to repeat the question, just so it doesn't get lost, is any seismic reinforcing of the cement also included around any of the bores?
Regarding the seismic reinforcement, I'd like to direct this question to Emmanuel Vasquez. Are you online, Emmanuel? If somebody could unmute his microphone.
Can you hear me?
I could hear you. Yes, I could hear you. We could hear
Okay,
you.
so that question is in two parts. Obviously it's inside the tunnel, so I'm not sure if when you mean around the tunnel, you mean the liner itself or the portal buildings. If it were I guess if in both scenarios, that would be additional scope in form of a retrofit. And so during our design of the structure, if we see that a seismic retrofit is necessary, we bring that recommendation to the PDT team to see if there's funding for the retrofit. And in this project, and if there isn't, we kind of flag the project as a high retrofit need. So that way, the next available set of fundings that we can attain to do the retrofit are allocated for the tunnel. With that being said, however, in terms of like the rehab work that we're doing inside of the tunnel and like the tunnel liner that we're going to be repairing and cleaning up, we don't anticipate any seismic, retrofit needed because tunnel structures, they're buried structures. And if you can imagine an earthquake where there is the fault does not pass directly through the structure, the ground motions where the tunnel is buried underneath the ground, they're not significant, and it's different from like a structure like a bridge or a building where the ground shakes and it amplifies it above ground and through the columns and through all that up into the structure. So we don't anticipate on the tunnel liners to do any seismic retrofits. In the portals, there could possibly be, but again, that falls outside of the scope of this project.
Yeah, thank you, Emmanuel. Yeah, that's a great question.
Thank you. So that concludes our Q&A period of the presentation. I believe Wahida will say a few words regarding the submittal of comments. We have our next slide. So just to reiterate the way that Caltrans will be receiving comments.
Yeah, I can go over those one more time, but I think we could take, if we have questions, have we checked the land?
Have any more questions?
Okay. And so just to reiterate again, we are collecting comments till February 6th. Those of you who did not submit comment today, please keep those comments coming in till February 6th. And there are 5 ways, as I had mentioned in the beginning of the presentation. You can submit your comments through email, through virtual email to Brycelyn Hendrix at dot.ca.gov. You can also submit virtual comments by visiting the project website, and the QR code is available here. Or if you visit the project website, the URL is also available. You can also call a landline, 855-367-3269. Again, it's 855-367-3269. You can also submit your comments through USPS Postal Service by paying attention to Brycelyn Hendrix at District 4, Caltrans, PO Box 23660, Mail Station 8B in Oakland. I really want to thank all of you for coming today because as I mentioned before, your comments really make us go back to our drawing board, make us talk and discuss more with our project teams to take how to solve some of the questions or notes or comments that you have provided. And this is the public engagement process is very vital in developing a public project. So thank you so much for your time. For those of you who have showed up here in person, I know everybody is busy and taking time off to come here in person, or people who have joined online. Thank you for joining again. So that's all I have. And again, looking forward to more comments submitted through the 5 ways that I just mentioned. Thank you very much. Unless, Ken, do you have any last comments for the people who joined today?
Oh, yeah, I just want to thank you for any of you who joined us today in person and on Zoom. It is a big collaboration effort, not just internally within the project team. It's also involving you, the public. As I stated from the beginning about our Caltrans mission, visions, and goal, we definitely appreciate you for joining us, and we look forward to hear more comments. Leo, you have a answer?
I'm sorry, Kenneth. So as we were wrapping up, it was brought to my attention that from the many messages that were received that I did miss one question. And
Okay.
since you're wrapping up, it's actually quite appropriate.
Okay.
Because the question was about the funding of the project. And if I know that you have the answer to this question,
Okay.
and I'd like to make sure that our audience member knows that we didn't ignore, it was my mistake because of the many messages we've been receiving. But the question is, I do apologize if this was discussed, which it wasn't, so I'm glad they mentioned it. But is there an anticipated budget for this project? And then we can wrap it up. Thank you.
Yes, obviously, yeah. So the project is going to be funded by the SHOP or the State Highway Operation and Protection Programs. In addition, the project for the fire life safety is being funded by the Infrastructure Investment and Job Act. And some of you might know that our former president, Joe Biden, signed that into law. So it was set aside, you know, a significant amount of funding to help deliver this project to protect our #1 goal, your public safety in the event of a fire emergency. We're continue working on it to make sure we're very mindful of, you know, taxpayer dollar, public funding, and we're trying, you know, as a project team, evaluate all different design options to make sure we minimize impact to the environment, impact to the traffic, and also staying within our budget. So with that, thank you for the question.
Thank you. Yes, again, questions will also be answered in the final environmental document. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
One more thing, the cost estimate at this point is still preliminary because we're still investigating different options, different alternatives for traffic and for other items. So that is something that we're working on.
Thank you, Jay, for completing the answer to that question. Again, I'm sorry for missing the question earlier. I think that wraps it up for tonight. Thank you, everyone. Good night.